students, I'm Kim Glanowski. I'm so glad that you're with us for Eden Hope Academy Writers Club, and we are writing your first book. So you should already have 40 details about your book. You should have honed those a little bit, worked on those a little bit, and you should have a character analysis done, and then you should already have your voice chosen and what you expect your reader to have learned. So if you haven't completed this, I really want you to finish it before you come to class next week and really think about the tone, the voice, how you're going to project yourself in your book and how you're going to be speaking in your book. The next part that you're going to do in class this week is your sub-story. And the sub-story is kind of like a commercial break for your readers. And so many stories have almost independent stories that are interwoven with the story, with your main story, to give your readers a small break as they read. And what do I mean by that? Well, in Bully, Broken, and Redeemed, the author, Knott, is talking about some pretty serious things. And so he's talking about how scared he is, how he's nervous on his first day of school, and he's talking about the things that he would want to do, but instead of just like weighing his readers down with that, he talks about another aspect of himself. It turns out that this young man really loves animals, and his family is part of a farm share where they go to a farm a couple days a week. And so as his sub-story, his break, he intertwines the stories of his farm. So he says, as the brakes exhaled at each stop and cars tried to gauge the red lights and accelerate by, my mind drifted to the farm. My mom had stopped a Tractor Supply a week before. There was a sign on the chick corral that said 50 cents off, or 50% off, but no prices. My mom, being my mom, offered 50 cents per chick, and the deal was made. My eyes popped out. Seriously, Mom, do you need 48 chicks? Apparently we did. And then he goes back to his story right away, and it said, I stunk at school. Honestly, I was classified as an idiot. It's not the term they used on the paperwork, but that's what they meant. I had a pair of red Jordans, but my clothes were a mix of JCPenney and Walmart and a few small stores. My mom shopped for me. What can I say? All right, so the chick would be a sub-story to his main story. You're going to add in the sub-story pretty quickly in your book, and so I want you to be thinking about that. What do you love to do? Do you love to garden? Do you love to play with Legos? What do you love to do? I want you to think about something that you really enjoy doing. And then I want you to think, would I want my older me, yourself when you're like 40, to think I was doing that when I was that age? That's a little embarrassing. So make sure that it is nothing that you wouldn't want to project, that you wouldn't want to read to your own children later. So you could love running in the woods. You could love making dams and rivers. You could love farming. You could love cooking, or you could love taking care of your siblings. Anything like that would be super as a subplot or a sub-story. So on your paper that you'll receive in class, you're going to write down, actually do this one before you go to class. You're going to write down, what is a sub-story? So do you remember what a sub-story is? It's like a commercial or a break for your student or for your readers. How will your sub-story add to your reader's experience? Well, a lot of sub-stories help the reader to understand the characters better. They also help the reader to take a little bit of a break from the story, and they also help the reader to get more of a perspective of what's going on in the story. So it's like in Knott's sub-story, the book goes on to talk about how we know that Knott was bullied, and so he has another kind of a daydream in class, and he says, my sister had strung the heat lamp as I spread pine shavings. The chicks had gotten so hot in their boxes that when my mom picked them up, they fell out and spilled into the car. There were chicks under the seats pooping all over the car. Priscilla ran out to help my mom and put the peeps in the stall. Priscilla was laughing when she passed me. I used to laugh. I don't laugh anymore. 2 chicks had been slightly injured at Tractor Supply, but they seemed okay. All right, so now what do you think is going to happen next with the chicks? There's going to be a story that goes along with the chicks. But what did you learn from that already? How about the sentence, I used to laugh, I don't laugh anymore? That tells you a lot about that character, doesn't it? That really, that kind of makes you pause with the character and go, wow, that's sad. So let's go on with our sub-story since we're kind of into this now. And he actually, in this book, because it's 80 pages, he actually has 2 sub-stories. I would suggest that since your books are going to be about half that size, that you keep with one sub-story. So the next part of the sub-story for him is, we checked on the chicks in the barn the day after we put them in. The chick with the hurt leg seemed to be limping a little bit more. The others seemed fine though. Priscilla screamed when she and my mom visited the farm the next day. She was still sobbing when I got home that day. It was horrifying. 47 chicks were attacking the one with the hurt leg. They had taken turns pecking at it until it had spread its guts all over the stall. The chick was still alive. They hadn't killed it. 47 chicks had strategically pecked the one until it laid on the ground with its head peeping loudly and legs moving and no guts, Priscilla said. I peeked at the chick in the wrapped in a paper towel on Priscilla's lap. It was dead inside but very alive. Now, for a boy who's been bullied, can you see how his sub-story is really relating to himself? Can you see that? He felt dead inside, but he was really alive. And so his second sub-story of a cardinal is actually where the cardinal is able to be saved from bullies and it flies away. So can you see how the 2 sub-stories are able to take the reader out, give them a little bit of a break, but then also tell them so much more about how this young man was feeling. So sub-stories are very important, and I want you to think of one for your book. So in a sub-story, for example, if you were talking about, since we're on Sojourn Study in World War I, maybe you were talking about World War I and how some of the battles took place in the fields, then you might have yourself running through the field and you trip and you wake up and you realize that that you could have been really hurt, or you might play out a sub-story like that. And then what is your story sub-story? So I want you to write out the basic parts of your story's sub-story right here. It does not have to fill this whole box. It can be just a few sentences, because then in class, you're going to write out details about your sub-story. Now, if this is not particularly helpful to you to write out all these details, you could write out your sub-story in the back, or you could type out your sub-story and your teacher can edit it for you in class. But make sure that in class you can think of a lot of details, or you have something that is already written out for class. All right? Okay, I'll see you next week.